Recently, the UK Supreme Court ruled on the legal definition of a woman.
The unanimous decision of this court is that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex.
So, listen, I want to take some toxicity out of this debate. Now, on both sides of the debate, there are extremes, and they're just not listening to each other. Well, frankly, they don't even want to listen to each other. On one side, you've got your classic homophobes. I don't like seeing men being women or women being men. They just don't like it. They're your classic bigots. They're probably racists as well. They're probably, chauvinistic pigs. But what we do know is they just don't like transgender people. It's weird. It's weird. To them, it's just not. It ain't normal. And anything that ain't normal, they don't like. On the other side, you have these very militant trans people or allies of trans people, some allies of trans people, who are just not prepared to listen to anything that may deviate from their opinion, and who often speak very disrespectfully about particularly any woman who dares to stand up for women's rights or to stand up just for science and logic. Trans women are scared. I get it, totally get it. I want to live in a society where trans women and trans men, but this case was about trans women, so I'm going to refer to trans women. I want to live in a society where trans women can be their authentic selves, where they can live securely in dignity and with respect. But we need to be honest. People we respect, they deserve for us to be honest with them. It's a sign of respect, being honest. We cannot live in a delusion. We cannot ignore science. We also can't ignore the history of women, the fight for their rights for decades, for their protection and security, dignity and respect. Rights they are still fighting for to different degrees all throughout the world. Why are they fighting for those rights? Because women are not men. Men are not women. We both have had to accept that. We should be treated equally where and when possible. And if we can't be treated equally, we should be treated fairly, because there are times when we can't be treated equally, and we shouldn't be, because we are different with different needs. And therefore, we also all have limitations. We have to be honest. There are things that I, as a man, maybe as a white man, as an English man, as a man who was born in a certain place with certain physical limitations, the fact I'm short-sighted, there are certain things that I have to accept that I cannot do and cannot be, as uncomfortable truth as that may be. I know that's not a cool thing to say. And maybe it's not a very woke thing to say, even though I would generally consider myself predominantly woke. But it is the truth. I want a trans woman to be the person she wants to be. And we should all, as much as possible, make trans women feel comfortable in their own skin. Gender dysphoria is real. Transition is not the solution for everyone who has gender dysphoria, but it certainly is for some people. And I want those people to find happiness in their lives. And frankly, I will do everything I can for those people to feel that they are the person that they want to be. I'll use the pronoun that you want me to use within reason. I will treat you as much as I possibly can as the gender that you want to be. But I will not lie to you. I love and respect anyone and everyone, well, unless they're an arsehole, of course, they exist in every group of people. Those people aside, I love and respect anyone who is either transitioning or has transitioned or is thinking about transitioning, whatever stage of being trans they may be. It cannot be easy. But my respect also extends to being honest with you. A trans woman is not a woman. A woman is not a man, and a man is not a woman. We all have our own unique experiences. First of all, we all have our own unique experiences from just being who we are. Nobody is born of the parents we're born of at the time that we are born, in the place that we are born. Nobody. Even if you have a brother or a sister, they're born at a different time. They're treated differently by different people. They have exposure to different things than you do. Nobody is living the life that you are living. You're the only one person on the planet who's living a life anything like your life. So we're all uniquely different. But we also have shared experiences, which are different. And whether you want to be a woman, the fact that you weren't born a woman and you're not a biological woman, you haven't experienced what it's like to be a girl. Now, you may have experienced things that were similar. You may have felt like you were a girl, but you weren't. You were a man coming to terms with their identity, being uncomfortable in the body they were born in, and wishing they could be something else and expressing themselves in a way that perhaps with social conditioning is different to the gender role that we have prescribed to them, but you were still biological man. You were not a girl. The experience of being a girl, going through the physiological changes, the psychological changes of being a girl, transitioning into a teenage girl and then into a woman, is unique to being a biological woman that you can only experience being a biological woman. Biological women, unless of course they transition, they still can't really escape being a woman. Even if they're a trans man, they're still biologically a woman. They cannot escape how patriarchal society treats women. There is no escape for them. And that's all part of the experience of being a woman. It's psychologically different. It's hormonally different. It's biologically different, physiologically different, societally different. And it's a unique experience. We can share things in common. Men and women also share things in common. But there are things that I, as a man, I cannot be, I cannot do, and I will never experience because I'm not a woman. Trans, woman, man. And much of the time, these differences, they mean nothing. In a day-to-day basis, most of the time, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, whether you're a trans woman, it makes very little difference to many things that we all do in our day-to-day lives. But sometimes our differences do matter. That's whether we like it or not. And pretending they don't is just lying to ourselves and living in a delusion. I don't believe in God because I believe it's a delusion. I think there's so many problems caused in this world because of the delusion of a belief in a God and the delusion of religion. Because a delusion is a lie. There is no proven fact related to any religion. They are based, in my belief, on lies and delusions and the problems that are associated with that. Fact is, when we're honest to each other, even when those truths are uncomfortable, we are more respectful and dignified and live in a society that works better for everybody. I don't want to live in a delusion. I love the fact there are trans people. I love the fact also that there are men who are effeminate. Maybe all the time, sometimes, occasionally, sometimes I dip into being a bit effeminate, you know? I love the fact that there are women who are butch as fuck, who out-butch me. I love the fact that we can, be all those range of things, which is why I don't actually agree with the term non-binary, but that's another debate. That's another discussion. But I love the fact there are people who do not adhere to what we've been socially conditioned to believe how a man or a woman should behave, because that's just bullshit. That's all man-made nonsense. Trans, men, women, we're all human. We all share a whole lot of stuff in common, but we all also have our differences. Stop denying the fact and let's learn to live with and celebrate our differences where they exist. Now, both the judges of the Supreme Court and the Prime Minister Keir Starmer, they reiterated that this is not an attack on trans people. As much as the idiots out there, the bigots, the homophobes, yeah, they will probably use it, but they will use any excuse. They will use any fucking excuse because they're dumb as fuck and they just want to hate people.
We counsel against reading this judgment as a triumph of one or more groups in our society at the expense of another. It is not. As I shall explain later in this hand-down speech, the Equality Act 2010 gives transgender people protection not only against discrimination through the protected characteristic of gender reassignment, but also against direct discrimination, indirect discrimination, and harassment in substance in their acquired gender. This is the application of the principle of discrimination by association. Those statutory protections are available to transgender people whether or not they possess a gender recognition certificate.
They also reiterated, the Supreme Court and Keir Starmer, that trans people are also a unique group that must be protected and respected. Standing up for women's rights does not mean we should not also stand up for the rights of trans people. We all should have rights. It doesn't mean we should all be treated exactly the same, because we are not, but we should all have our rights stood up for and respected. So let's work together to respect each other, to find the things that we have in common, to recognize and embrace our differences, and celebrate our own individual uniqueness. But to do that, we have to be honest about who we are and what we are. Trans people living their truth. They're honest about who they are, what they want to be, and how they feel. We should all be. Is living a lie in denial solves nothing.